on to the main battle of Nordlingen. You have two options with this battle. You can either play a shorter battle that gives the historical assault period, which is scenario 3 actually, and it puts the Swedes up a lot closer to the Spanish army. That starts at 10 a.m. And yes, you can see which one I'm doing here. On the other hand, here at 7 a.m., we can start an early morning action. Why am I not doing the historical? Well, because we do start further back. I have some opportunity to maneuver, etc. There's a price to pay for that. The Swedes have to get more victory points. And the way the victory points are assessed in this, there's no terrain here. I mean, there's terrain on the board, obviously, but there's no terrain victory conditions. What there is a tremendous requirement for the Swedes to do well. They need to break 80 victory points in the morning assault to have a chance of winning. They have to break 60 in the later start. Okay. Position-wise, well, we have one Swedish force here. Now, this is under Bernhard, and he's got, I believe, an infantry and a cav wing here. And likewise, over here, Horn is considered an army commander as well, with an infantry and a cav wing under him. When you activate the particular wing that's involved, you get the army commander for that wing. Okay, that works pretty well. It would be nice if Bernhard was the only one who came about. But, you know, honestly, being able to have two army commanders is kind of cool. The Spanish have a similar but slightly different situation. Of course, they have a lot of good terrain and a lot of guns set up along here. And this setup is all fixed. The only thing is you've got these columns coming off from off-map. Well, the Catholics, not just Spanish. They have the Cardinal Infante kicking around somewhere. Oh, I wonder what I did with him. Is he sitting under Duke Charles? Yeah. He counts as an army commander, as does Ferdinand. Now, list him as Ferdinand, King of Hungary. My memory's not very good there. I don't remember. Okay. Anyway, unlike some of the later games in the series, there's still a lot of historical documentation, information sitting in the game, but it's mainly about how the units operated, etc. Stuff that really becomes less important the more copies of the game, more games in the series you have. So, you know, Saints in Armor gives a lot of historical information about the persons involved. Here, well, there's a lot less. And there's actually less historical information about all the military units, which I find okay. I find actually the series tends to go into a little bit more depth and detail about specific units and how they were, you know, the research involved in gathering that. But I'm sure that could be interesting to some people. Here you've got a few notes. Hey, Burgundians were known for producing fine calf. Great, okay, that's cool. You know, but the command situation is a little different for the Catholics. They have two army commanders. The Cardinal Infante can only affect Spanish officers, and the Duke of Lorraine is considered Spanish, but he's in command of a unit that has no Spaniards in it, and Spanish units. And Ferdinand can only affect the non-Spaniards, the Bavarians and the Imperial troops, along with the Bavarian and Imperial leaders. Great! You don't get to choose, though. You roll a die on each activation. And what is it? On a 0 through 4, Ferdinand is activated. On a 5 through 9, you get the Cardinal Infante. And the Cardinal Infante is a little better. He's a -1. That's great. We have this little, I don't know, garrison out here on the hill protecting things. And we have a huge force of infantry, entrenchments in place, cav behind those entrenchments. There are a lot of guns. Remember, these hills are steep, so that's going to be a bit of a problem. The Swedes have to figure out how to get on the board and whether or not they want to try to take that hard spot or avoid it. There's no artillery here. There's integral artillery with this battalion, but that just helps their fire combat. They can't fire that individually. So, we don't have a lot of Swedish guns. Well, we have 3 here and I think about as many there. We have some integrated though, which means the Swedes will be able to do well in fire combat. And we have a couple of special rules that I noticed. Swedes have an option to say, hey, the battle happened 2 days later and they get a few more troops. We're not going to do that. And let's see. Over here for the Spaniards, the Spanish troops themselves, the yellow stuff over there, that can never salvo fire. But a couple of the tercios have special drills that they practiced to make them immune to Swedish bullets or something. I don't know what these are, but they give 2 of these tercios here. And they have, let me see where they are, Algron and Idicus. They're 30, 14, somewhere in, that'll be these 2. They get to roll on this special table when you do salvo fire at them. And it's possible that, first of all, they might cause a penalty to the fire, and they also might not take the morale check from the salvo fire. That's pretty potent, actually. I don't think you'd want to salvo fire at them given that, because chances are that, you know, first of all, you have that lasting effect for the rest of the turn, but also that looks like it'll be worse than regular fire. Got to remember we have the integrated artillery. This is going to be a little tougher than some of the games because the wings aren't as distinguished as they might be. The center is distinguished. We have a Spanish cav wing here and a left cav wing as well. Just a lot of different commands. Let me see if we have historical. I'm sure we do. Everything's probably in received charge or something for the... Yep, everything's going to be under received charge. Alright, well, I'll come back in a bit and we'll start. Alright, well, we started that first turn and I kind of like the Swedish plan, which is to focus here, try to get the artillery up there, and enfilade the Spanish infantry that way. The alternative is, of course, facing this humongous artillery battery up on the hill, or set of batteries up on the hill. Bernard's wing is not strong enough. So what I've done is started slithering Horn's troops over, trying to deploy them for a potential assault. But I'm pushing Bernard, at least his cav wing, forward a bit more. I even tried to get an interception into play. Ended up causing a couple of failed preemption attempts. Moved my cav up into open order to come around to kind of threaten that whole section. To me, it feels like if the Catholics can't clear this problem, and they may have to, I mean, they're going to have to try. If they can't clear Bernard off the field, Albuch is an untenable position for those units. They can't face being outflanked like this. The question, of course, is what I've got Bernard going forward with does not look like a particularly battle-worthy line. It's almost, I mean, it's essentially a column of troops, but they're all in decent formation, which means the Spaniards have to kind of deal with this terrain and get channeled in it, or else get formation shaken to cope with it. We'll be testing some things out here about how well the system handles my craziness. All right. Well, all the Swedes have to pretty much go first unless there's a preemption. So I've got one more Swedish unit to move, which is Bernard's infantry. I'm going to try to get them into open order as well and push them up this hill. Of course, where this is different is historically Bernard did not move en masse up this hill, and I didn't get a continuation. Those hedgehogs are just there as open orders. I don't have enough counters. I don't want to break into another game at this point. I may have to, though. This is a big game, and it doesn't have very many of the counters. It's not like I'll sell any of these ever. The difference is that the Swedes positioned themselves to kind of pin down the Spanish army and the wing over here to prevent Horn from getting into trouble. Here I'm pushing him in to provide support on the assault on the hill, which, well, that opens things up, and that means that whole Spanish army can come wheeling down. But it takes the guns out of the equation, and I mean, they're not in the equation if I'm sitting here, but it may open the battle up to be an open battlefield below the defensive position, which I'm fine with. I don't want to fight these well-defended positions. Hell, I may pull Horn away from that position if it turns out being a big fight down here. Oh my, well, for the Spaniards, they launched a charge. Oh, I haven't gotten to him yet. Oh well, he's not going to do anything. He's going to pause. For the Spaniards, they launched a charge with their cav, hit one of these units, and they were actually knocked back over here. That's kind of a problem. Also had a little bit of disruption to the formation there. I'm not thrilled with what happened, but the rear unit of Catholic cav got several activations. This is for the infantry, this is for the cav back here, and got themselves up here. Those hedgehogs, again, are open orders. Not much happening here. Some artillery fire. Piccolomini screened himself a little bit there. That's about it. We're ready to move into turn 2. Don't know how this is going to open up. If these guys had been able to go into a charge on the last turn, they would have been able to hit these columns of cav, and those are actual columns there, which would have been very, very, very bad for the Swedes. Well, for those cav at least. Open order is definitely better to be in than columns. This is developing into something kind of odd. I guess I'll load this up. I know it's only one turn out of 30, but only so much time in each case on a video.